Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Amber Ledberry, the Outreach Coordinator at Climate Action Now, and one of the many people who work to bring this action party to you today. It'll be just a few moments while people continue to gather. If you're feeling up for it, please also share your video so that we can all see each other. We will be recording this action party and it will be available publicly online. So if you do not wish to appear in any shared content, please go ahead and keep your camera off. We'll send out the recording tomorrow. If this is your first ever action party, let me give you a quick overview. An action party like this is an opportunity to learn about important environmental issues from people who are experts in their fields. In the course of the same hour, we're going to use the Climate Action Now app to take action together. Climate Action Now makes it easy to send well-researched, personalized messages to political decision makers and business leaders. To show you why it's so easy to take action with the Climate Action Now app, I'm going to share my screen for just a moment. All right, you should be able to see my screen now. So this is an example of actions like the ones that you'll have access to tonight or today. It'll only take 3 touches to take an action. First, you touch the Do It Now button. Because the app has your address, it automatically knows who your state officials are. Then you can choose how you want to contact the decision maker that you're reaching out to, either by making a call or emailing them. And then you just have to hit send if you're sending an email and you've taken action. In addition to sending emails this afternoon, we'll also have designated time for you to call your officials. As you take action, you're going to earn points. And when you earn enough points, Climate Action Now plants a real tree on your behalf. So far, Climate Action Now has planted over, I think, 400,000 trees together. And to get you started with taking action today, I'm going to go ahead and turn over the spotlight to Kaylee Beam, our Director of Content at Climate Action Now. Over to you, Kaylee.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Kaylee Beam, Climate Action Now's Director of Content, and like Amber said, before we kick off the main event, I'm going to get us all ready to take some action in support of the Packaging Reduction and Recycling Infrastructure Act. So let me just share my screen. You should be seeing it shortly. All right, so if you've attended one of our action parties before, you already know what to do. You already know what you're looking at, but if this is your first time attending, let me introduce you to our goal tracker. So on the left side, we have this cool little globe, it's already iterating, but it will keep doing that as we take action here today. And on the right side is a QR code, which is what you're going to scan to get into the app. So go ahead and take out your phones or tablets, open up your camera, and point it at the QR code box on the right side of the screen, under where it says today's carousel. And as you're pointing your camera at that QR code box, you should see a little bubble that says Climate Action Now appear, and once it does, just tap on it. If you don't have the app already, tapping that bubble will take you to the App Store where you can download it for free. And once you have the app, all you need to do is follow the prompts to sign up, and it should take you right to the People Over Plastic campaign, which is where you want to be for today. So, gonna give everybody a moment to get in there. I can already see some people in there because the number's ticking up. And if it's not working for you, don't worry. You can go to your browser, type in the link that's directly under the QR code where it says CanApp/link/Priya. And if you're someone who's been using our new tool, the Can Action Carousel, you can also access today's actions through the campaigns drop-down menu there. So lots of different modalities for taking action today. But if you're still having trouble, that's okay. The campaign will still be open until the end of the legislative session, and we'll share detailed instructions on how to access it in our event follow-up email. So we're going to have some dedicated time for making calls later in the event. So when you get to the first call action in the campaign, feel free to take a break until we get to that segment. And we'll also be putting up a slide with phone numbers and call scripts later in the event, so everyone can participate whether you're on our platforms or not. Our current goal is to hit 200 actions by the end of the hour, and I have heard that there will be a comedy surprise, and you will be rewarded for your efforts with that. So let's make sure we get there. Okay, that's everything from me. Thanks, everybody, and back to you, Amber.
Thank you so much, Kaylee. Now, a special thanks to our lead planning partner and moderator this afternoon, Alexis Goldsmith. Alexis is the National Organizing Director for Beyond Plastics and is a principal organizer on the New York is Not Disposable campaign to pass the Packaging Reduction and Recycling Infrastructure Act and the Bigger, Better Bottle Bill. Before we learn from our panelists, Alexis is going to talk about this landmark bill and what's at stake. Over to you, Alexis.
Hello, everyone. TGIF, am I right? Thank you so much for joining us on your lunch hour on this chilly May Friday. And thank you, Kaylee and Amber, for pulling this event together for us and just all of your support for campaigns in New York and everything you do for the climate. So before I get started, does everyone know how to access the app and the campaign carousel that Kaylee and Amber were talking about? Is there anyone confused about how to take action on the app? Okay, that seems like a good sign. So if you do have any questions, though, just put it in the chat. We want to make sure that you're able to take action along as we're speaking today. So we have two speakers from environmental justice communities here in New York, and if Amber or Kayla, if you could help Patrice. Let's see. You all hear me talk all the time, so I don't want to talk too much, but the environmental justice impacts of waste are really hard to understand unless you're seeing it in person, unless you're witnessing the actual impacts. And so when we're talking to our legislators, it's really difficult to convey that to them, and the importance of this bill and what this bill is actually going to do to improve the lives of our own communities here in New York. For adding personal bits to the emails, I think it's important so that legislators can see that they're hearing from a variety of people. And what you're going to be doing during this hour is, one, emailing every member of the Assembly Majority Caucus. So yes, you're going to be emailing members that aren't your legislators. And two, you're going to be calling and emailing your own Assembly member, your own senator, Assembly Speaker Hasty, and a Senate Majority Leader Stuart Cousins, and the chair of the Black, Hispanic, Puerto Rican, Asian American Caucus, Michael Solage. The timing couldn't be better for this power hour because yesterday Assembly Speaker Hasty said that they would conference the bill. So that's a really good sign, even though the budget's not done. And the latest that I'm hearing on the budget is that it won't be done probably until Memorial Day weekend. But the fact that they're going to conference it means that we have some motion. And what conference is the majority members and the minority members have their own conferences. They go behind closed doors and they discuss, frankly, how they feel about bills. And so what we need our members to do, and what you'll be urging them to do in your calls and emails today, is to speak up in support of this bill because it will protect environmental justice communities, it will protect our health, it will protect our planet, and it will put people over big polluters that are trying to kill this bill. So you all know why the bill is important. I don't need to reiterate that. A lot of you were there on Monday with us. Thank you. And I'm going to share some great news coverage here at the end of the hour. But first, I'd like to pass it over to our first speaker, Yvonne Taylor. You heard her at the rally on Monday, where she only got to speak for a couple minutes on really what the impacts of landfills are on communities. So Yvonne, if you didn't hear her introduction at the rally, she is the founder of Seneca Lake Guardian. She's also a speech pathologist, or you have a degree in speech and language. So, just a regular person. And that's what environmentalists are. We're just regular people living our lives and having to advocate for clean air and clean water. But what's so special about Yvonne is that she's really made defending the Finger Lakes her life. And in fact, she was named one of the top 50 climate leaders in the country by Grist. So she's a local hero, and I'm absolutely excited to be hearing from her today. So Yvonne, please take it away.
Thank you so much, Alexis, and good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank Beyond Plastics and Climate Action Now for organizing this conversation and for giving people across New York a concrete way to take action today. We are based, as Alexis mentioned, in the Finger Lakes, where my community has spent years fighting Seneca Meadows, New York State's largest landfill. The Finger Lakes region, as many of you know, is one of New York's greatest treasures, home to breathtaking lakes, world-renowned wineries, rich farmland, and vibrant small towns that draw millions of visitors every year. It is a place where agriculture, tourism, and natural beauty sustain a thriving regional economy and a deeply rooted way of life. We are also proudly the birthplace of the women's rights movement. But instead of being defined by our lakes, our farms, our wineries, and our history, we are being defined by a mountain of garbage. Every single day, our communities are forced to bear the burden of 6,000 tons of trash, toxic air pollution, and contaminated water, truck traffic, noise, and constant, overwhelming odors. And I want people to understand what that really means. It means parents sitting in school parking lots, wondering whether it's safe for their children to spend another day breathing landfill fumes. It means kids playing soccer and baseball in the shadow of New York's largest landfill. It means residents waking up in the middle of the night because the smell is so overpowering they can't have their windows open. It means families wondering why so many people around them are getting sick. In a survey we recently conducted of more than 700 residents, people described the daily reality of living near this landfill and the toll it is taking on their health and quality of life. Among households within 10 miles of the landfill, 26% reported someone diagnosed with cancer or heart disease, and 27% reported asthma or other respiratory issues. 42 respondents said someone in their household had experienced a miscarriage or stillbirth. The area has already been identified as a cancer cluster with lung cancer rates 30 to 35% higher than state and national averages. But this landfill is not only harming public health, it is harming the economy of the Finger Lakes. Our winemaking, agriculture, and tourism industries comprise roughly 60,000 jobs and generate over $4 billion into New York's economy every year. But visitors entering the region are greeted by the stench of a massive landfill. Businesses trying to recruit employees hear the same thing over and over again. People don't want to raise their families next to a dump. We cannot be both a world-class tourism destination and the dumping ground of New York State. Seneca Meadows is not, though, just a Finger Lakes issue. Every year, tens of millions of gallons of PFAS contaminated leachate, the toxic liquid produced when rainwater filters through garbage, is trucked across New York State from Seneca Meadows to places like Buffalo, Watertown, and Amsterdam. And the wastewater treatment facilities receiving that leachate don't have a mechanism for removing those toxins before it is discharged into waterways and upstream from drinking water sources. So communities hundreds of miles away from Seneca Meadows are still being impacted by this landfill. At the same time, Seneca Meadows is the largest single source of methane emissions in New York State. And methane is more than 80 times more potent than CO2. These emissions are directly undermining New York's climate goals and the promises this state has made to its residents. And yet, despite all of this, this landfill continues to operate under an expired permit while awaiting a decision from the DEC on a proposal to expand by another 47 acres, grow 7 stories taller, and continue operating for another 15 years. Think about that. A landfill that was supposed to close in 2025 is now asking for another 15 years of pollution, another 15 years of truck traffic, another 15 years of methane emissions, toxic leachate, and years of sacrifice from our communities. And for what? So that an out-of-state Texas-based corporation can continue profiting from New York State's broken waste system? For too long, New York has relied on communities like mine as a sacrifice zone for a throwaway culture that we refuse to fix. And that is why we are here today, because we are in the middle of a plastic pollution crisis. Plastic production, use, and disposal are fueling climate change, polluting our waterways, contaminating our food systems, and harming human health. And most of that plastic eventually ends up somewhere, too often in landfills like Seneca Meadows. We cannot landfill our way out of this crisis. We cannot continue producing unlimited waste and expect frontline communities to absorb the consequences forever. That's why legislation like the Packaging Reduction and Recycling Infrastructure Act is so critical. PREA is about reducing waste at the source. It is about making the companies producing all this packaging take responsibility for the pollution they create. It is about investing in real recycling infrastructure, reducing unnecessary plastic, eliminating toxic materials, and moving New York toward a circular economy instead of a waste economy. And importantly, it shifts the burden away from taxpayers and communities and on to the corporations profiting from this broken system. Because right now, communities like Seneca Falls are paying the price with our health, our air, our water, our economy, and our future. This is an environmental justice issue. No community should be considered disposable. No child should have to go to school next to a landfill. No family should have to choose between their health and staying in the community they love. And no region should be sacrificed because the state failed to reduce waste upstream. While some tend to forget this, New Yorkers overwhelmingly voted for the Green Amendment. New Yorkers did so because they believe every person has a constitutional right to clean air, clean water, and a healthful environment. Those rights should apply in the Finger Lakes too. So today, we are calling our state leaders to act. Pass the Packaging Reduction and Recycling Infrastructure Act. Close those loopholes that allow polluters to continue operating indefinitely under expired permits. And finally, deny the expansion of Seneca Meadows and enforce its closure. Because our communities deserve better. Our children deserve better. And New York deserves a waste system that protects people instead of sacrificing them. The time to act is now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yvonne. Anyone want to ask any questions of Yvonne while we have her?
Yeah, get your questions in the chat. And I also just wanted to publicly celebrate our goal that we hit it. We're way past 200 actions. Great work, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and update the counter and just keep those messages coming. I think we can, let's go for 500 next. I think we can do it.
Nice. And Yvonne, thank you so much for just reminding us like what defines New York. It shouldn't be landfills and incinerators. It should be our agricultural lands, you know, upstate. We have such a beautiful, beautiful state. I mean, the Finger Lakes are a treasure. The views, the lifestyle, and we don't want to open more landfills. So what are we going to do when the Seneca Meadows landfill closes? I mean, what is going to happen to all that waste?
So that's the question, what's going to happen to all the waste?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question. And actually, that is the question that the landfill wants you to be asking. The landfill very frequently will say, well, if you close Seneca Meadows, where's all this garbage going to go? You need us to stay open, right? But that's the wrong question to be asking. The right question is, how do we turn this current throwaway culture into a system that embraces zero waste and a circular economy, where landfills and incinerators are used as a last resort, not as the primary resort of our garbage. So right now, there are 25 landfills that are open that have capacity to accept waste. At last count, it was, I think, 219 million cubic square feet of space in landfills that are not currently in designated disadvantaged communities. So if Seneca Meadows were to close today, There would be space in other landfills to accept this waste. However, as a community that is painfully aware of what it's like to live under the shadow of a mountain of garbage, we don't want that burden of waste to become a burden on another community. So that is why we are so dedicated to passing PREA, which would go a long way to waste reduction and getting us to our goal of turning this very slow ship around from a throwaway culture to a zero waste economy. That is our goal. And we know that we can get there. We just need the political capital and the will to change our current system. And I believe firmly that we can do that and close Seneca Meadows at the same time.
Thank you. Thank you. Well said. I think we'll leave it there because that's just such a good note to end on. And that segs nicely into making some phone calls. So let's all take a moment to hop on the phone. You can do it through the app, but also Kaylee's going to put the slide up on the screen. We're going to call our own assembly member and Assembly Speaker Hasty, and you can say exactly what Yvonne just said if you want, or you can speak from the heart and talk about what this bill means to you, and urge them to bring it to a vote as soon as possible. So we'll do that. Kaylee, if you would mind putting up the phone numbers.
Yes, I'm gonna share my screen right now, and then I also see a question in the chat, maybe good question for you, Alexis, which is my kid got a real person on the phone. Do you have more of a script for an interactive call? So kind of someone who wasn't expecting a real person to pick up the phone.
Yeah, I would just say, like I said, speak from the heart. Talk about what reducing plastics and toxic chemicals in packaging means to you. You don't feel like you have to explain everything about the bill or explain all of what it means, but what it means to you. And most importantly, urge the member to speak up in support in conference and to vote yes on this bill when it gets to the floor. All right, we'll take 5 minutes now, or maybe a little. Let's go until 12:30 to make these 4 phone calls. And I don't know if we can put any music on or anything while we're doing that. I could sit here and play the fiddle for 7 minutes, but people need to focus on calling, I understand. Oh, and I'll answer the question. So comparing this version of the bill to earlier ones. So if you want to mute me so you can make those calls, please do. But this bill is much different than when it was first introduced. So the history of this bill is it was first introduced by Assembly Member Steve Englebright. And the original version of this bill required 50% reduction of plastic packaging over 10 years. It required 17 of the most toxic chemicals to be removed from packaging, and it required recycling and reuse of packaging. It prohibited toxic chemical recycling to count as recycling, and of course, municipalities get money to pay for packaging waste. So the bill since then has undergone 69 amendments. It went under 30 amendments in 2024, which were all weakening, all industry concessions. So the reduction requirement for plastic packaging was changed from 50% to 30%. And I admit that was a huge punch in the gut. But we still supported the bill and it passed the Senate in 2024. Same bill was introduced in 2025. It passed the Senate in 2025. Made it to the Assembly floor both years where it stalled, despite having a majority of co-sponsors on the bill. Now, in the last couple weeks, another 39 amendments were made, all weakening, all concessions to industry in an effort to make the bill more palatable to some members who are reluctant to pass this bill because there is such intense industry opposition. So something that we lost in the most recent round of amendments was the Office of Inspector General, which would have been responsible solely for enforcing the bill. Now enforcement is going to be on the DEC and the Attorney General's office. So there is enforcement. There just isn't that Office of the Inspector General. And also we lost some of the toxic chemicals in packaging. But the good news is that even with these weakening amendments, the core pieces of the bill remain the same. Reduction is still required. Effective recycling is still required. 20% reuse is still required. Chemical recycling does not count as recycling. Municipalities still get the funds. Like, it is still a really strong bill that will ultimately greatly reduce toxic plastic packaging and toxics going into landfill, leachate, and incinerator emissions. Industry is not happy with these amendments. They're not going to be happy with any bill, frankly. They don't want to change. They want the status quo because they're currently benefiting from it. So the final number of toxic chemicals that are banned is, we count it as 13 if you count it out, but it's really more than that because some of those are entire classes of chemicals. So the entire class of PFAS chemicals is prohibited. The entire class of phthalates prohibited. The almost all bisphenols except TMBF are prohibited. So these are all chemicals that are really harmful to our health. They cause all kinds of problems, including infertility. If you saw the most recent Netflix documentary on this, Plastic Detox, you know that bisphenols and phthalates are directly linked to infertility. So this bill, even with these amendments, is still going to protect our health, is still going to reduce waste going to landfills and incinerators. I can't stand here and say that it's a zero waste bill. It's not. Would I love a zero waste bill? Absolutely. But reduction is important, and meaningful reduction is really important. And that's what this bill does. How are we doing on calls? We have 2 minutes left. Any other questions? I can play one fiddle song for you all, and then I didn't feel like dancing, but I thought maybe I'd do this. I don't know how the sound is gonna come across.
Just go for it.
All right, here we go. I'm gonna hit my ceiling. That's it.
The Zoom sound filtering, I think, is a little too good, but what I could hear sounded incredible.
Sorry, y'all.
I think for future power hours, we should just advertise that some fiddling could occur. I think that would get at least 50 more people on the call.
The button, I'll try and figure out the sound for musicians. And if we get to, let's say if we get to 1,000 actions, I will play another song at the very end. But first, I want to turn it over to Monique Fitzgerald, who's with us. You know Monique from rallies that we've had in the past, but similarly to Yvonne, you just can't really get into depth with the issues at a quick news conference or comments at a rally. So this is an opportunity for us to really hear some of the details of what it's like living with landfills and incinerators. So Monique is from Long Island. She is a community advocate and organizer with Long Island Progressive Coalition and also the Brookhaven Landfill Action and Remediation Group. She was born and raised in North Bellport, and she is a Black and Indigenous person in occupied Long Island. And I think that her story of how the Brookhaven landfill came to be and how it persists is so powerful, and one that we all need to know as we're talking to legislators. So Monique, please, whenever you're ready.
All right, thanks, Alexis, and thanks everyone for being on this call, and thanks for all the organization that went into it. Thanks, Yvonne, for sharing your story about the landfill near your home. And so here I am to do the same thing, right? It's always difficult to kind of like figure out what it is that I am going to say, because there's just so much that I could say, right? This landfill has been with our community for over 50 years and my entire life, right? So I don't really know, I don't know a life without living near a landfill. But I do know that it's not normal, and I do know that it is something that we can move on from, right? This is something that is, in my opinion, what we need to think of as something that we've done in the past and that we don't need to do any longer. So, like Alexis said, this landfill came to our neighborhood in the 70s after one of the landfills in the area was closing, and there was a need due to capacity, and there was a need for another siting of a landfill. And so this is important to the story because North Belport, where I live, was constructed via capitalism, colonialism, white supremacy, right? The first case of blockbusting happened in North Belport. So the people that lived here in the 50s were largely white working class folks that was essentially uh, frightened off of the neighborhood because they were told that Black and Indigenous people were moving in. And so this was a tactic that real estate agents used, and they actually got called to the carpet on it because the case, again, was the first one in New York State. And the real estate agency and realtor was found guilty of blockbusting. So that was the Gerald Cutler case versus New York State. And so I say that to say, right, in the 50s, when this blockbusting happened and Black folks started moving in, this is also simultaneously happening while another landfill is closing and a need for a siting of a landfill to happen. So since this community was created to house Black folks, Indigenous, and Latin folks, this became prime real estate for where they were going to site this landfill. And so that's pretty much the origin story of how the landfill got here. A group of people who were systematically oppressed in all areas of their lives was just railroaded with this landfill siting in 1970. And so we've been living with it ever since. And it has taken different iterations. So in the first 10 to 20 years, it was actually a full like landfill that took in solid waste. And so like folks traditionally think, you put your garbage to the curb, and then the trucks take it to the landfill and it gets dumped, right? That was by and large what was happening at first. But then something called the Long Island Landfill Law came about in 1983 and essentially banned solid municipal waste being landfilled. And so ever since that time, the town of Brookhaven, who owns the landfill by my house, they contracted with Covanta in 1989, and we started to ash fill ever since. We also were accepting construction and demolition debris. We were accepting car fluff as well. And basically, we just seen just an exponential growth in the landfill. Instead of that time being a time where they would close the landfill and move on to another area, they continued to utilize that landfill and expand it higher and higher and wider and wider. So we went from one cell in 1977 to 6 cells here in 2026 with solid waste and ash and construction and demolition debris, car fluff, all these things. And we're at 172 is the height, and it's 192 acres wide. So it's a pretty large landfill. It's a regional landfill for just about all of Long Island. It serves about 1.9 million households. And, you know, we have this contract with Covanta, which is an incinerator company that has, you know, pretty much taken over the political landscape on Long Island. You know, they are pretty proficient in greenwashing the waste industry. They are literally financing campaigns here on Long Island. They are, you know, using their financial prowess to propagandize our communities, our politician against our own best interests, right? And so this is a multi-billion-dollar company, corporation, global corporation that just recently sold their corporation to Reworld. So now they have a whole new branding to just, in a sense, absolve themselves of any of the kind of negativity that they had in the past and try to like rebrand to a new type of chapter going forward. But we remember Covanta, and I don't believe that it's in our best interest to drop that name, because that is exactly who is still by and large you know, just kind of like powering this waste industry. And that's the main thing that we try to do with our community group, the Brookhaven Landfill Action and Remediation Group. We want to center environmental justice. We want to center community. And what we see our government agencies doing is centering the industry instead. And that's leading us to expanded landfills. That's leading us to a disposable society, a society that says that certain areas can be sacrificed and certain areas are, you know, just a place where you throw away what is unwanted. And we don't want folks to think of our community that like that, right? We are a vibrant community. We are one of the most diverse communities on Long Island. We have everyone from Indigenous to Black to Latin to Asian in our community. And that is something that is a strength. It's not a weakness, and it's not a place that needs to be terrorized with, just like our wasteful cultural practices at this point. And, you know, I think with this plastics bill here, the main thing that I get out of it is that there was a time where we didn't have so much plastic. And it wasn't so far in our past, right? It was within some of our lifetimes, like folks who may be on this call. Within, you know, the 50s, the 70s, this is when we started to explode with plastics. And so if we had a world where we didn't have that much plastic before, we can have a world where we don't have that much plastic again. And that's what we have to center here, thinking about ways to just reduce, reuse, and just rethink what we are actually utilizing on a day-to-day basis, right? And I say that with a large understanding that this is not something that we do on an individual level. This is what Priya is proposing, is that we do this on a systemic level. We have the producers of these plastics or whatever products that we're using, have them be responsible, because they essentially have the funding. To be frank with you, they are making the money off of our agony, our pain. So they need to be the ones responsible for making sure that we don't have as much waste. they have to be responsible for ensuring that we have the infrastructure so that people could actually be less wasteful, right? And changing the culture from single use, disposability, and all of those things to a really strong community where we prevent waste and we don't have this thing called waste anymore. So I don't know if I'm at my time, but I would just love to say, um, continue to make those phone calls, do all that you can. This is, I think, a really good time for us to pass this bill after the governor clobbered us with the budget and the climate rollbacks. The governor um, owes us a lot, and this could be one of the things that she delivers on, and the legislature as well. So I'm calling on Hasty, get it done for us this year, and we'll be at your doorstep until you do.
Thank you so much, Monique. So many great points that you made. You're just such a, every time you speak, I'm just like, oh, I have to listen to every word she says. But can you, if you have a couple more minutes, besides the rebranding that Covanta has been trying, can you talk a little more about the greenwashing that they use with legislators and the communities?
Yeah, I mean, what they do is, they contribute to campaigns, right? And, they even have funding opportunities for community members to, do some kind of recycle project or what have you. And this is funds that, is literally for them is disposable money. This is money that they, can probably write off that they're doing something for the community when they're actually doing nothing for the community, and just throwing out some type of Band-Aid or just trying to project a this aesthetic that they are for community and that they are interested in recycling. But what we know is that recycling rates are far less in communities where we have incinerators. And here on Long Island, we have 4 of them. So the big one that comes to the Brookhaven landfill is the Hempstead incinerator, but we have one in Northport, we have one in Islip, we have one in Wyandanch. And Wyandanch is similar to Bellport, where I live. They have some of the highest asthma rates in Suffolk County, along with us, right? And so these are not by accident. This is not because we have a genetic deficiency where we have asthma. These are environmental issues. So yeah, this is what Covanta does. They try to have tours where they show some like clean facility, but meanwhile they were cited for having hundreds of violations by the DEC. They had to pay out to the DEC in a settlement that was way too low, but they settled with the DEC. They settled with the town of Brookhaven. For pennies on the dollar for what we need to actually have a zero waste plan to do the things that would create the infrastructure for real change. So so yeah, the Covanta, they just get to put their stamp on anything that we call green, and no one challenges it. But we're here to challenge that.
We are here to challenge that, and nobody here is buying the greenwashing. I think we're all standing with you, and we're all, rooting for the landfill to close responsibly, and we want to stand with you in a better future for communities like Brookhaven. So my last question for you is, can you just talk about the future that you imagine and that you'd like us to imagine for communities like Brookhaven?
Yeah, I mean, I would love for this bill to pass. I know it's a step in the right direction for zero waste, but we have to really rapidly get to a zero waste society and understand that again, there's no away place, and that just like Yvonne said, right now some of our waste does go to Seneca Lake. So, we are perpetrators as well as victims of this system. So, if our landfill closes without a clear plan of action to go down to zero, we're going to be doing some of the same things that we're asking not to be done to us. So yeah, we have to rapidly get to the point where we're getting to zero waste. And for what Priya can do, it sets an example for what is possible.
Thank you so much, Monique. As always, appreciate your time. Great job with the actions, everyone. We blew past 750 and we are coming up on 1,000 actions with 13 minutes left. So keep taking action in the app, and we're gonna switch gears here a little bit. I'm gonna pass it over to Gail Tierney, who is representing Gail Tierney. Gail is moonlights as a comedian and improv actor, and kindly agreed after I begged to give us some comedy relief, because this work is often so challenging and can sometimes be disheartening. But we want to keep it light and remember that there's joy and fun also in the work. So Gail, please take it away.
For sure. I'm just trying to figure out how to share my little slideshow. So if you give me like 30 more seconds of breathing room. Hold please. Here we go. It's just not wanting to work.
Is it a Zoom error? Is the share button working, or?
It says that I can, oh, there it is. Okay. Here we are.
There we go.
For a second. And you can see the slides, right?
Yep.
Right on. Okay, hi everybody. I'm Gail, just Gail. And I'm gonna lighten it up in here a little bit. We're gonna talk about this bill a little bit slant. Normally, as Alexis mentioned, yes, my comedy is typically more sketch comedy or musical comedy or improv or physical comedy. I'm not a stand-up, and I've never done a comedy slideshow before, so buckle up. I hope it's fun. Okay, so scientifically speaking, some things move fast and some things move slow. So seagulls, very fast. They have evolved at the speed of light, okay? It used to be you saw a seagull at the beach, maybe they would lazily try and steal your stuff. Now they hunt you down. They come under the blanket. They will steal your social security number and they will commit tax fraud. They are snipers, you guys. These are not the seagulls of our youth. Garden gnomes, also fast, move very fast. Garden gnomes have expanded. They have hobbies. Look at this little guy. He's painting. We love to see that. And legislation, slow. Oh boy, legislation moves so slow. So as many of you know, we have been on a 4-year journey to try and get this bill passed. There's been many hurdles, including Kraft's inability to imagine that cheese could exist outside of individualistic plastic sleeves. That's Cheesegate, as we refer to it. But what I love is how climate activists have so much in common. If you look around this Zoom room, we are just one homogenous sea. I mean, it's like a group of finance bros in here. We're indistinguishable and we're not eccentric at all. And I love that. So I don't know. Well, here's what I'll say. Okay. we are all deeply alarmed, in honesty. We're deeply alarmed. We feel like no one else is taking it seriously enough. We ostracize our friends and family because we're talking about the climate crisis, like some sort of science Santa, and we just can't seem to help it. And my family have started to confess their use of single-use plastics to me like I'm some sort of really intense, like, plastics priest. Is that happening to anyone else? Just me? Cool, just me. Um, but do you ever think about the correlation between intelligence and conscientiousness? Because what I actually see when I look around this room are nerds with really big hearts. But I wish that less intelligent people got a conscience, because then we'd be more balanced as a society. It's just all of our really popular Coca-Cola employees now, they just have a little underdeveloped conscience. Unfortunate. But at least we can sleep well at night knowing that legislators are looking out for us. They all got into this for the right reasons. They live similar lifestyle to ours, so they're well aware of the stressors of our daily lives. They get us, you know? And our voices matter to them more than the millions of dollars and threats from misinformation that plastic lobbyists ever could possibly dream of. You know, it's all just very wholesome in Albany. I think that's been my main takeaway from working on this bill is it's just a kumbaya of camaraderie. No notes. So I am bisexual. Look at the bangs, you all. Come on. And odds are, so are some of you. I know my statistics. I support Priya because I'm bisexual and I need a minimum of 3 emotional support drinks at any time, or I'll lose social credibility. And if even one of those oat milk-filled drinks is garnished with microplastics, I'm threatening my health and my ability to voluntarily, oopsie, not have kids. So, okay. I'd like to suggest one more exemption to the bill. I know that we've gone through the ringer, but this one's important. Last week or recently, I was mailing, so sometimes I fill out for the job that I will not name these postcards that we hand deliver to Congress members. So I was going to USPS to put some of those in the mail, and I had an alarming experience. So I got out my wallet and I got out my wallet and the person behind the counter saw my ID, I guess, and he goes, hey, is that your ID? I was like, yeah, it is. And he goes, oh, okay, because you look like and I interrupted him to say an axe murderer, right? Because I have a very creepy ID photo. And he goes, no, didn't skip a beat, mind you. Did not even hesitate and goes, no. You look exactly like the lady on the front of Quaker Oats. As a friendly reminder, this is the lady that he was referencing. It was an extremely gender affirming moment. I have not recovered. Okay, so I'm non-binary and bisexual. You cannot put me in a box. You cannot get me. So personally, I think that Quaker Oats should just be left out of Priya. I don't know if it's in, but even if it isn't, I think we should create a special loophole exemption for these intimate reasons. Let me eat my Quaker Oats and let me eat the rich. You know? Okay. In conclusion, and thank you, I know this has been a very studious few minutes for you all. I've covered a lot of academic ground. But the climate movement just needs a rebrand. People don't seem to give a shit about Mother Earth. I think, just a pitch, we should call it Daddy Planet now. I mean, Christianity gets everything right, and they've got millions of people worldwide praying to their heavenly Father. Why don't we just copy them? I think that Daddy Planet needs us. Let's keep going for Daddy Planet. And there, as you can see, is the OG Daddy. That's it for now.
Thank you so much, Gail.
There's nothing like the crushing weight of silence on Zoom to really, really make comedy sing.
Someone get Pedro Pascal to come be the face of our movement, please.
I beg.
Also, Gail, just like this was such a difficult challenge because I thought it was hilarious and people were laughing in the chat, but like who can make jokes out of plastic waste? Like nobody. Thank you. So
Gotta try and warm us up, but unfortunately the plastics industry has beat me to it.
they are funny on their
We're
own. And
warm.
I do like to laugh at them. Especially their silly ads about dropping paper towels in puddles.
And comedy needs villains, and we have some very clear villains.
It's true. It's true. We're so close to 1,000 actions. Can we get there in the last 3 minutes?
I think we can. I think there's a natural rate decrease because everyone was focused on what Gail was saying. And I assure you, all of us were cracking up even though we were muted. I know I was for sure.
Gail, I really think that you could like perfect a comedy pitch about climate and then maybe like do a collab with Gila the Earth or like go viral about plastic pollution.
So funny you would say that. I am working on a project with Heal the Earth, so stay tuned.
We will. And oh yeah, that reminds me, please, there's been a flurry of social media and of news coverage of PREA in the last few days. I sent one from Inside Climate News last night. We were on Spectrum today, and I'm going to send that out as well. And there's a news conference starting here in 2 minutes, and I think it's going to be live streamed on the Beyond Plastics Twitter X page. Let me find that. So please, everyone, go to our Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, X, get on social media when you're done taking actions here and like and repost and tag your assembly member and Hasty. Consider it part of the action party today. To do that, watch the live stream of the press conference. And then if you really want to go above and beyond, go and write a letter to the editor responding to one of these news articles and get that in because we have got to get this bill done in the next 3 weeks. So we reached 1,000. Congratulations, everyone. I think I figured out the sound. So I'll stick to my word if Kaylee and Amber can stick around for another 2 minutes.
Not me still being on video. I guess I'll dance.
Oh, you're still pinned? Oh, I can remove it. There we go. Sorry. Okay. Am I pinned? Have I just been? Okay.
Yeah, your spotlight. You should be good to go.
Can you hear this?
Yep.
Is that better than last time?
Yes.
It sounds better to me, yeah.
That sounds better. You can actually hear the notes.
Oh, they've disappeared again. Are you doing the musician mode?
I'm trying to do musician mode. Let me see 1 second. I should get a what's it called? A microphone. Live performance audio.
Give it a try.
Is that better?
It's not, I'm afraid.
Okay, well, sorry guys. Zoom is just not going to work for the fiddle, but maybe I'll bring it to a rally. It's tough because I cannot bring it into the Capitol. Like I tried once and almost got it confiscated. So sorry. I'll record a video or something for you all. But thank you for getting to 1,000 actions. We're going to do another action party here in the next few weeks if I can convince Kaylee and Amber to do this again. And thank you to Climate Action Now. Once you're done taking action in the campaigns, consider, a small donation to Climate Action Now to support their work. And you can take other actions in the app and challenge your friends. And there's like a leaderboard. It's really fun. We'll pass it to Amber to close us out.
Thank you, Alexis, and a big thank you to our incredible panelists for sharing your time and insights with us during this action party, and to Beyond Plastics for their planning work on this action party. And thank you also to everyone who joined by showing up today. You played a key role in helping to pass this landmark legislation. Beyond Plastics is doing amazing on-the-ground work at the New York Capitol to get this bill passed. It's a critical point where your outreach to your state officials can make a big impact. So thank you all for being here. I dropped a few links in the chat. If you like what we're doing, please consider becoming a Climate Action Now supporting member for as little as $9.95 each month. CAM members are really the backbone of what allows our small but mighty team of staff to keep bringing you these climate action parties. So we're really grateful for your support. That brings us to the end. Thank you all so much for joining us today.
Thanks, everyone, and great work. Over 1,000 actions in this past hour. You're all incredible, and we couldn't do what we do without you. So thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day.